Well, thank you for these two wonderful presentations and two wonderful approaches to large area additive manufacturing. Actually, it's really interesting because you presented two different strategies on this. Last year, you both were also in industry. You came with your research lines, with your ideas, your bold ideas you already were having. And in between editions, you actually presented a reality because you were part of the team that developed this 3D printed bridge in Alcobendas. And actually, this is why we would like to cover this update. We like to cover this evolution, these needs and challenges that each sector is facing. And for me, there are two crucial topics that you already covered, but I would like to go a little bit in depth. That would be, first of all, materials. You presented the idea of bringing new materials, new approaches, giving something else to these materials that were already being used in construction. And you, José Daniel, were more prone to let's build up on top of our previous uses, so this idea of bringing concrete but doing something else. What do you foresee in the future? Can we use something else besides concrete in the future, or it's something that it's still only in research environments?
I think that the material aspect in the construction sector is a key aspect. It has always been in very close relation. I mean, all the innovation in construction has mainly taken part because of the material innovation. So at a moment of environmental crisis and at a moment of economical crisis as well, I think that like rethinking the material is becoming a key. As I was showing in my presentation, there is a series of researches happening around the world on material engineering and material industry, on the one hand of how we can recycle materials, how we can use recycled materials into the construction sector and into the architectural environments, but also research on materials such as sustainable concretes. I think José Daniel is going to be speaking about that. But also advances on smart materials, which means materials that they are able to change properties, which means really radically changing the way that we have been thinking about our built space. Architects and designers and engineers, when we were dealing with a material that was changing properties, we were afraid because we thought that was a problem for our design and eventually for our construction. But if we start designing with a change of properties, then we can start creating environments that they are more synchronized with nature, and therefore they are more sustainable and they are more like evolutional, the same way as living organisms are in nature.
I would also include that we are in an environmental crisis also, not only.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I would like to add something because, well, we are, only I think we are quite agree with what Areti has just said. You know, when we try to explain to a lot of people, you know, what is 3D printing or what is large scale 3D printing, we always say that it's like a Roman temple, you know, with 3 columns. One of the columns is material, another column is the machine, and the other one is the design. We think that this is the main, is the easy way to understand what is large scale 3D printing. If you don't have one of these columns, then the building is going to go back, to go down, you know, that's the point. And talking about the materials, for us is very important, you know. In fact, you know, with our technology, we have been developing several materials in order to be applied in large scale 3D printing. But we have to face something that is quite also important for us. I'm a civil engineer, and there is something that is called regulations and standards. And one of the main topics that you have to try to solve. You know, when you sit down with a client and you start talking, you know, I would like to do a project with large scale 3D printing and so, they're going to, well, yes, okay, but what kind of regulation is what you have? That's why we decide to have several approaches talking about materials. One of them is a sustainable material. Another one was a traditional material. That's why we start working, well, as Areti knows very well, we start working with several materials, and at the end we decide to develop 2 lines. One of them is microconcrete. It's based on Portland cement, and it's a traditional material. We don't have too much problems, you know, talking about regulation with that kind of material. But also there is another material very interesting that we are using that is called geopolymers. Geopolymer concrete, geopolymer cement, you know. This is a fully sustainable material, and it's going to be the future. You know, the future material is going to substitute in the future to traditional concrete. I don't know if you know that when you are generating 1 ton of cement, you are pushing to the atmosphere 1 ton of CO2. that is not affordable in the recent times. So we need to try to look for alternatives to the Portland cement industry. You know, in this case, for example, geopolymers is very interesting because the base material of geopolymers is fly ash. You know, fly ash is obtained from the coal power plants, and it's something that is a waste. So if you try to take that waste or to try to do a cement, that is going to be incredible for the environment. So that's why we have developed two techniques. One with geopolymers, talking about materials, another one with microconcrete. Well, in fact, the Dam of Areti, the Iranian sculpture, is done with geopolymers. It's our first large-scale element done with geopolymers, and it's going, I think it's like, I like how we contribute to the future, you know, of our families and childs and so.
At the end, contamination fixation in building materials is a great topic to develop. The other point that I like to cover is this difference in the two approaches that you presented. No? The idea of on-site robotics, are they feasible in on-site construction, I would say? It's feasible to adapt to all the different conditions you can find, and it's marketable, so you can sell this consistently. I know that José has already presented their point of view, but I think that as we've seen changes from last year edition, and we'll see many changes in the coming future in this sector, how do you see the possibility of using this idea of on-site 3D, large-scale 3D printing?
Well, first of all, as you said, I mean, within 1 year, we do what we say that we're going to do. So you need to be afraid of us to start with. I really think that, as in most of the cases, the answer is somewhere in the middle. No? It's not like with the on-site construction we're going to be solving the biggest challenges of construction, but I think that the 3D printing in combination with robotics, it opens up possibilities that we haven't had before. And this is something that we need to take advantage of. The biggest housing crisis is happening in the very dense urban environments. You know, like if you go into mega cities, the majority, I mean, the future housing is supposed to be the slum. No, this is how it is being presented by different researchers and scientists. So how can we give a low-cost, sustainable solution, but also with high aesthetics and value on that? It is a big challenge for us. And on the other hand, as very, very well the industry supports, and we know it because we're collaborating very closely with the industry, there is a close future that it can be basically solved with prefabricated 3D printed elements. So both techniques are valid, and both they are to be applied in different contexts and resolving different problematics, let's say.
I think that well, this question we have discussed a lot already, as you know. I think that we have several different approaches, but we are agree in the same thing: is that the answer is not one answer. You are going to have several answers for depending on what kind of problem you have. We have been developing the technology focused on precast technology, like the traditional precast technology in construction. But we really think also that there exist also some specific markets for on-site technology. We have been working since last year that we were here, that we start talking about large-scale 3D printing. Now we can show that the bridge has done, and also we are working on other topics. We have several approaches to a lot of clients because there was a lot of people that were interested about what we were doing, here in Spain, talking about large-scale 3D printing. And we realized that there are two kinds of clients. One that are focused on precast technologies, another one that are focused on on-site technologies. So I think that the market, is very big, and there is going to be interesting, depending on the client, depending on the solution, which one is going to be more interesting, One of the things that we have been discussing a lot of times is that if, for example, you want to do on-site 3D printing, large-scale 3D printing, then you need a machine that is bigger than the building you are going to build. So that's one of the challenges that you must solve. Perhaps the solution of on-site robotics, I really love that solution, because I think it's a very, very, very good idea, and that could be a solution to solve that problem. That's why we decide to go to the precast technology at the beginning, but not in the future. In the future is open, I think that the sky is the limit, so we will see what happens, But till now, we said that we thought that the best way was to try to combine precast element in order to do a complex shape. So I think that, we have to develop both technologies, both solutions, and to see in each case which one is better.
Yeah.
I'm sure about
Then
that.
there is an interesting always concept that I have about the on-site robotic idea, is the fact that it's not only necessary for the on-site construction, but for example, if we think about the ideas of Industry 4.0 and all the idea of where are the factories of production in relation with the places of consumption, no? There is a big distance among that. We are producing very far away, we're transporting in order to consume very far away, that then again, waste that we need to transport very far away. So there is like a kind of disconnection. So technologies of mobile robotics that can 3D print and can allow to fabricate. It can also be for prefabrication techniques, but creating pop-up factories very close to the place where the construction is. So that idea also of creating pop-up factories for us is very interesting.
You've done a really great work with the Fab Labs and all this culture of trying to bring production back to cities. Just to wrap up, we'd like to cover this question that we always like to have, that it's what else? What are your needs and challenges? How you see the coming year? What else we'll see next year when you come back?
It's a very good question. No, it's a very good question, because, we don't know the future. I think that, we have several projects that are going ahead, that are going on now, and we are working with them. And we think that for us, the challenge is try to try to put this technology into the business. For us, it's the main challenge, because now, I'm the innovation guy, I work in innovation department, innovation division of my company, but I think that the challenge for us is to try to take this to the business. And it's something because, I'm in the industry, I'm in a company, industrial company, so what we think is that our first challenge is to try to go to the business and to start doing things for clients. That's going to be our first challenge, that we have to go that way. And after that, of course, we know and we realize that there is another path that we have to go through, that is continue investing efforts and resources developing the technology, because this is a technology that is not finished, the development. We have to work hard, we have to work with the best partners like Iaac and other partners in order to try to develop the technology and to go more as far away, in order to try to give solution to our clients, because there are a lot of clients that came to us and we cannot solve their problems. And we think that this is a fantastic tool in order for the future to do things that are not able to be done in a traditional way. That's our challenge for the future.
Yeah. Well, our challenge is that José Daniel acquires his challenge. That is super important, that we have really the industry that combines creativity and knowledge and ideas, like merging industry with academia is fundamental in order to innovate. So seeing part of the solutions that we are also developing marketed for us is a big challenge. And at the same time, pushing on creating creative solutions that allow me are not only based on 3D printing, but they are also combining a series of technological advancements that I think can revolutionize the way that we construct. So Internet of Things, responsive technologies, augmented and virtual reality in combination with robotics and 3D printing, I think it's going to bring a boom in the way not only that we design, but also or we construct, but how we perceive our spaces and how we interact with that built space.
Yes, well, just only to finish, I think that we realize, at least in our company, I think that most of the companies realize that the future of construction is different to the traditional ways to do things that we have till now. So as Areti has said, there are a lot of key technologies that are getting into the market: robotics, mixed reality, Internet of Things, big data, and analytics. There are a lot of things that are changing the rules of the markets. So I think that we need to go to the future. And to go to the future, we have to go to that kind of technologies and to develop it in order to give added value to our companies. That's what we think.
Well, thank you very much. At the end, I think that for me, one of the conclusions is the adoption of these technologies in each sector implies really a multidisciplinary approach and multidisciplinary teams and everybody bringing their knowledge into these solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And see you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Lunchtime, okay?